Hello and welcome. My name is Otto Tausk, the music director of the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, and with me today is Christie Reside. Welcome, Christie.
Thanks, Otto.
It's wonderful that you're here with us, especially this week, because you'll be the soloist in one of the pieces on our program, but actually also playing in the orchestra in a Beethoven symphony. We're also playing this week. And playing in the orchestra is something that you've done with the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra for many, many years. You've been our most wonderful principal flute for 18 years already. And before that, you also played in the other positions of the flute section. And I can imagine that's actually, I think that's an interesting subject to talk about a bit, because it must be very different in those different positions. How is that as a flute player in an orchestra?
Yeah, I feel very fortunate to have been able to play all three of the positions in our orchestra because I feel like I know the challenges associated with each job. It was great to come in as second flute because I really was I was very young when I got the job and I was able to be sort of walked through, all the introduction to orchestra playing by the wonderful principal flutist at the time, Camille Churchfield. I love second flute. I think second flute is such a fun,
Yes.
job. Really great lines to play, and it's really great to sort of develop that sort of relationship with your principal. And then playing assistant principal and piccolo, I found terrifying. This was not not in my wheelhouse.
What was, Christy, what was so terrifying about that?
I think I find playing principal in the concertos a little more nerve-wracking than the symphonies because the symphonies feel so natural. You're I don't know, you're more of a player, less of a follower, and in the concertos, it's just about trying to. For me, I'm always thinking of trying to make the best situation possible for the soloist, and I don't know, it feels a lot about not making mistakes rather than just sort of being free. And then
Yeah.
the piccolo, piccolo has never been my thing. I have so much respect for people who can play piccolo comfortably because I find it terrifying. Every time you play a note, everybody can hear you. It's so, it's
Yeah.
really hot.
Yeah, and what I always find, what you were talking about as a woodwind section playing the accompaniment of solo concerti, and one of my big let's say occupations is when we accompany a soloist. I always try to make sure the orchestra is as close and as tight with the soloist as possible. But I can imagine in the woodwind section, you're quite far away from the soloist, and it's very often not really possible to hear them clearly, to hear the soloist really clearly. So you have to kind of trust what you're doing, and I can imagine that is a very different way of awareness of what's going on around you, because if you're playing, like you say, if you're playing a symphony, you're kind of, as especially as a principal flute or a principal oboe, you're kind of taking the lead, and the rest of the section kind of colors around you. So I can really see that's completely different. Now, this week you're not only playing in the orchestra as the principal flute, but you're also the soloist in front of the orchestra, which again is something completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, I love the opportunity to get out front and play a solo piece. It's terrifying, but I feel so comforted by having all my colleagues behind me, people
Yes.
I've worked with my whole career. So that always feels great because the support from the orchestra is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yes, I always find that when a soloist is from the orchestra, you feel that support, and that's such a strong sense of, well, a connection actually, the musicians have. You really sense that everyone understands your phrasing and your timing and your coloring, which I think is really special. And this week we play the Martin. It's the ballade for flute, string orchestra, and piano, which is a very unique combination. I don't think I know another piece that has that same combination. Come to think of it, I mean, there's the trumpet, piano, and string orchestra, Shostakovich. but I can't right now think of a piece that is for flute, string orchestra, and piano. So it's a fascinating combination. I love the piece. I think Frank Martin is one of the great composers. Well, I think we can say of our time, although he's not with us anymore. He used to live, which is very interesting. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm from a small village. And Martin, who was originally a Swiss composer, actually lived in this same town. So I always feel a kind of a special connection to this composer. But what is your connection to Martin? When did you find out about this piece? Because I can imagine, well, the flute players will know the piece probably, but everyone else, this might be a new piece to them.
Yeah. I mean, yes, all flute players know this piece. This is a really popular showpiece that, I mean, I've played this piece many, many times, never in this configuration, only with the piano as it was originally written. But yeah, I mean, Martin, he's not, I feel like he's one of those composers that just wasn't mainstream enough to be like loved by the audiences, and wasn't sort of edgy enough or avant-garde enough to be really adored by academics. So he sort of threads the needle there, but actually that's what I really like about it, because I feel it is edgy and very, there's a lot of exploration in, especially in his harmonies, but it's accessible. So I don't think it's too, I don't think it's hard to listen to at all, but it is something new. So it's sort of a good sort of stepping stone to
Right.
Schoenberg, or maybe more adventurous works.
Yeah, I think he's a very interesting composer, because exactly what you say is that his technique, his composing technique, is actually very is very unique in a way, that using modern, let's say, 12-tone techniques, compared to other composers that use those techniques, you sometimes think, what is this music all about? And Martin uses the same techniques, but it sounds very natural. It sounds very organic and very accessible in a way, and maybe even well, I don't want to say classical, but it has a certain brilliance and ease to it as well. But I can imagine it's very difficult to play. Although when you hear it, it sounds very easy. But I mean, it must be very hard to play.
It's a challenging piece, like all show pieces. But I
So
mean, what I find most challenging about show pieces is, you know, not so much the technique, because you can practice and practice and practice until it's under your fingers, but sort of bringing out, making sure that you can be expressive in those really, really busy passages. So it doesn't become just about the sheer number of notes, because there are some passages in this piece that are, there's just so many notes and it goes by so fast. So
yeah.
For me, that's the challenge.
Right. So we had a rehearsal today, and what I could so much love about your playing is that you have the courage to play really intimately. And even as a soloist, you dare to play really small and really in a let's say in a very intimate sense, which actually makes the entire orchestra, they have to listen really well and play really soft to be in balance and to accompany you. So that's one of the for me always the most beautiful and maybe also touching moments, hearing you play, is that you dare to go very, it becomes very personal in a way, which I really appreciate. Now the piece was written for a competition. And it was written for let's say the flute section of the competition. Are there any specific flute challenges in this piece?
The register for sure. This piece really explores the entire range of the flute.
Yes.
So there's a lot of really low forte playing, which is, it's very hard to make that project in a big hall. And then, you know, there's, it goes all the way up to the top of our range. So, you know, that's challenging, but I have to say it really fits under the fingers very well. It's very well suited to the flute.
Yeah.
I feel really comfortable with
Yeah.
this.
Well, it sounds like that. That's fantastic. So you're playing the Martin as a soloist. Also, we're doing a Beethoven symphony. And then you'll be the principal flute. But you do a lot of things besides that. So you also play in Standing Wave, the ensemble that presents a lot of contemporary music. And you also teach at the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra School of Music. So this is a very diverse musical life you're having.
Oh, I think it's necessary. We learn from all of it. I mean, I learned so much from teaching my students. It makes me a much better player.
Mm.
And standing wave, I mean, it's a real passion of mine. I love that group. Great musicians. We get to commission brand new works and premiere them all the time. It's a really special ensemble.
That's fantastic. That's really great. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. And I'm really looking forward to this week. I would invite you and encourage you all to come to our concerts. We're playing 3 times, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm pretty sure that all of those 3 will be very different and very unique. Thank you so much, Christy. Looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Otto.
Bye-bye.